Good morning, my dear students. In my last class, I have started the chapter number 17, Breathing and Gaseous Exchange. In that, we have studied the human respiratory system and we have started with the steps of respiration. In that, the first step, that is pulmonary ventilation, or we can call it as breathing. Breathing, it includes two steps, that is inhalation and exhalation, inspiration and expiration. So that two steps we have finished. So that is important one. Explain the breathing mechanism. So you have to explain in detail both inspiration and expiration. Both you have to explain. So that finishes our first step. Now today we'll start with the second step, that is gas exchange between alveoli and blood. So this is the second step. So gas exchange occurs between alveoli and blood. So you know what is alveoli. Alveoli, these are present in the lung. So in this diagram you can see that round structure, whatever upper side you can see that those are the alveoli, and the in the blood capillaries, blood is there, red color you can see. So the gas exchange, it will occur between that alveoli and the blood which is present in the blood vessel. And second one, that is blood and the tissue. At the bottom of the diagram you can see those blood vessels are coming and meeting to the different cells. So here the exchange of gases will occur in between the blood and the tissues. So how it occurs, that we are going to study now. So alveoli, as I told, alveoli, these are the structural and functional unit of the lungs. So here the alveoli are the primary sites of gas exchange. So here the primary first gaseous exchange will occur at the alveoli. So oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged by simple diffusion. So how this exchange is occurring? By the simple diffusion, and it depends upon some factors. So which are those factors? It depends on pressure, or we can call concentration gradient, pressure of the air. So if anything has to be filtered, then pressure should be there. So it depends on the pressure. Then solubility of the gases, it is the capacity of the gas to solubility. Then the thickness of the membrane. So whatever the membrane of the alveoli is there, membrane of the blood vessel, so what is the thickness? If it is more thick, then exchange is less. If these are thinner, then the exchange is more. So thickness depends on the thickness of the membrane. And one more, that is surface area of the lungs. So how much area of the lung is there for the exchange. So on these four factors the exchange of gases is depending. Now in that, the first step, that is pressure or concentration gradient we can call. So what is this pressure? The individual pressure of a gas in a gas mixture is called partial pressure. Now in the atmospheric air, the carbon dioxide is also there, the oxygen is also there, the nitrogen is also there, all the different types of gases are there. So in that mixture of gases, what is the pressure of the individual gas? What is the pressure of oxygen? What is the pressure of carbon dioxide? So that individual pressure of a gas in the mixture of gases is called as partial pressure. So partial pressure of the oxygen and carbon dioxide are given in this chart. So that is not more important. So you just remember what is partial pressure. It is the pressure of individual gas in the mixture of gases. That is called as partial pressure. Now here you can see in this diagram, the first upper one, that is the alveoli. The square red one you can see, that is the blood vessel, and green color below one, that is the tissue cells. So here the PO2 means the partial pressure of the oxygen. PO2 means partial pressure of the oxygen in the alveolar air. In the diagram you can see that first round structure, blue color. So alveolar air, pressure of the oxygen in the alveolar is greater, that is 104 mm of Hg, than in the blood capillaries. In the blood capillary it is 40 mm of Hg. So oxygen diffuses into the capillary blood. So now just remember, in the alveoli the partial pressure of the oxygen is more, clear, and in the blood vessel the partial pressure of the oxygen is less. So obviously oxygen will move from higher pressure to the lower pressure. So the oxygen diffuses into the blood capillaries. So from this upper side, here the oxygen concentration is less, here the oxygen concentration is more, and here the oxygen concentration is less. So oxygen will diffuse from alveoli into the blood capillaries from here to here. Now the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide in the deoxygenated blood is greater than in the alveoli. So carbon dioxide diffuses into the alveolus. So carbon dioxide pressure is more here and less here. So what happens? Carbon dioxide moves from this blood capillary into the alveoli. So here you can see that is depending on the partial pressure, diffusion of the gases will take place. From higher concentration, higher pressure, it moves to the lower pressure. Second point, that is solubility of gases. So if you compare the solubility of carbon dioxide and oxygen, the solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times higher than that of the oxygen. So the amount of carbon dioxide that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane is much higher as compared to the oxygen. So carbon dioxide 20 to 25 times more diffusion power it is having as compared to the oxygen. So more carbon dioxide is diffusing. So it depends upon the solubility of gases. The solubility of the carbon dioxide is more as compared to the oxygen. Now the third point, important one, that is thickness of the membrane. So diffusion membrane, it is made up of 3 layers. So you can see that round structure, it is alveolar cavity. It is lined by a membrane. That membrane is called as alveolar wall. It is 1 cell thick. Second one, that is the first one, that is thin squamous epithelium of the alveoli. So that alveolar cavity is lined by the alveolar wall. That is the first layer. Second one is endothelium of the alveolar capillaries. So alveolar capillaries, you can see that is the blood vessel here. Okay, so that blood vessel, it is also having a 1 layered membrane. So that 1 layer, endothelium of alveolar capillaries. And third one, that is basement substance between them. In between these two, the basement substance is there. In the diagram you can see. Okay, so this is the first layer, alveolar wall, clear. Then here this is the blood capillary wall, and in between these two wall, here we will see the basement substance. So these are the 3. So it's if you see the total thickness, so compared to this total thickness, it is, so if you see the total thickness, it is only 0.5 micrometer, means very thin it is. Even though 3 layer it is there, the total thickness is 0.5 micrometer. So it is enable easy gaseous exchange. So it is very thin. So easily gas can exchange from the alveoli to the blood capillaries. And the fourth last point, that is the surface area of the respiratory membrane. So you can see the surface area. The total surface area of a human lung is equal to the tennis court. Means if you expand that, the total surface will get so much bigger. So presence of alveoli increases the surface area of lungs. It increases the gas exchange. As the surface area is more gaseous exchange will be there. So these are the 4 points on which the gaseous exchange is depending. Now the third step we are going to study, that is transport of gases. So transport of gases, 2 are there, oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport. The oxygen should be transported from lungs to tissues. Okay. It is carried in 2 ways, in physical solution, that is in the plasma, and as a oxyhemoglobin. Okay. Then carbon dioxide transport, it should be transported from tissues, that is from the cells to the lungs. In the cells, it is carbon dioxide is produced. So from there it should be transported to the lungs, and through the lungs it is given outside through the nose into the external environment. So here the carbon dioxide is transported from tissue to the lungs in 3 ways: as a carbonic acid, as carbaminohemoglobin, and as bicarbonates. In these 3 combination it is transported. So how it is, that we are going to study in detail. So these 2 questions are very important for 5 marks. Transport, oxygen transport, it is for 3 marks. Carbon dioxide transport, it is asked for 5 marks. Clear? So explain the oxygen transport, 3 marks, or explain the carbon dioxide transport. So 5 marks. So important questions these are. So first we'll study the oxygen transport. So in 2 ways the oxygen is transported, as I told, in physical solution, that is it is dissolved in the blood plasma. So how much oxygen is transported in the blood plasma? Only 3%. 3% of oxygen is carried by dissolving in the plasma. Now you know blood is consisting of plasma and blood cells. Blood cells are RBCs, WBCs and platelets. So these blood cells are present in the fluid of the blood. That fluid is called as the plasma. So in that plasma, 3% of oxygen is dissolved and it is carried through the plasma. So remaining 97%, majority part of the oxygen, it is transported by the RBCs in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin is present in the red blood cells, so it will get attached to that hemoglobin and it will get transported. So maximum amount of oxygen, 97% of oxygen is transported by the RBC in the form of oxyhemoglobin. So here you can see second one as oxyhemoglobin, 97% of oxygen is transported by RBC. Oxygen binds with hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. In the diagram you can see red blood cells, they are having the hemoglobin molecules. So the oxygen molecules from the lungs, blue color, it will get attached with the, it will get bind with the hemoglobin molecules. When it get binds with the hemoglobin molecule, now these are called as oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin binded with oxygen, so it is called as oxyhemoglobin. This is called oxygenation. So hemoglobin, it has the 4 hem units. So each hemoglobin molecule can carry the 4 oxygen. So like this many hemoglobin molecules are there in one RBC. So one heme molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. So like this many molecules are oxygen are transported through the RBC. So in the reaction you can see the Hb4, that is hemoglobin, will get binded with the oxygen O2 and it will form the oxyhemoglobin Hb4O8. So that is the oxyhemoglobin. Clear? So in the diagram you can see one hemoglobin, it is consisting of the 4 heme molecules to which the 4 oxygen molecules have been attached. So like this many hemoglobin molecules are present in the one RBC. So it can transport maximum amount of oxygen. Now this binding of oxygen, it depends upon the partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of the carbon dioxide as well as the H plus ion concentration and temperature. So binding is depending on 4 points: partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, H plus ion concentration and temperature. 4 factors are there. So in alveoli, there is high partial pressure of the oxygen. So oxygen is more in the alveoli when we inhale the air. Okay, so oxygen is more, so of course the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low. If oxygen is high, carbon dioxide is low. Sure, clear? Then the hydrogen ion concentration is less and temperature is also less. So in the alveoli only the oxygen concentration, oxygen partial pressure is more. Rest all, that is partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the H plus ion concentration and temperature, all are low. So these factors, they favor the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Because oxygen is more, so oxyhemoglobin is formed. Clear? Then in the tissue, when this oxyhemoglobin will go to the tissue through the blood vessels. So in the tissue what happens? There is low, in the cells already they are utilized the oxygen. So there is low partial pressure of oxygen and instead of that what is more there? Partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more. H plus ion concentration is also more and temperature is also more. So opposite to this, in the tissues the oxygen concentration is less and all other factors are more. Clear? So here you will understand that in the alveoli, oxygen, that is partial pressure of the oxygen is high and all other factors are low, whereas in the tissue the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is more and all other factors are less. Every 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver about 5 ml of oxygen to the tissues under the normal physiological conditions. So that much binding of oxygen is there to the hemoglobin. So now here we can see the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. So this question will be asked for 2 marks. Draw the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. So here it is a sigmoid curve. If you see the shape of the curve, it is a sigmoid curve which is obtained when we put the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen against the partial pressure of the oxygen. So on the x-axis we have taken the partial pressure of the oxygen and on the y-axis, that is percentage saturation of the hemoglobin with the oxygen. So what is the partial pressure of oxygen against the how it is binding to the hemoglobin, that percentage. So this we have to put the plot, and when we put this we will get the sigmoid curve. So this is called as oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. So how it is useful? It is used to study the effect of factors like partial pressure of carbon dioxide, H plus ion concentration, partial pressure of oxygen, temperature, all that we are going to study when on binding of oxygen with the hemoglobin. So that time, to study the effects of all the factors, this sigmoid curve is helpful. So this curve we have to draw. It is important for 2 marks. So now we have finished the transport of oxygen. Now we will study the carbon dioxide transport. So as I told, carbon dioxide, it is transported from the lungs into the tissues in 3 ways. It is transported as carbonic acid, it is transported as carbaminohemoglobin, and it is also transported by the bicarbonates. In these 3 forms it is transported. So how that we are going to study? First, as carbonic acid. So about 7% of carbon dioxide is carried in a dissolved state through the plasma. So it will get dissolved in the plasma and it forms a carbonic acid. So whatever the water is present in the plasma, it reacts with that and it produces the carbonic acid. So 7% of carbon dioxide is transported in the plasma. Then next 20 to 25% of the carbon dioxide, it is going to form the next, that is carbaminohemoglobin. So as it indicates, you can see it is going to be transported by the hemoglobin which is present in the RBC. So 20 to 25% carbon dioxide is transported by the RBC. How it is transported? The hemoglobin as carbaminohemoglobin. When the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is high and partial pressure of the oxygen is low in the tissue, the more binding of carbon dioxide occurs where the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low and partial pressure of oxygen is high in the alveoli. The dissociation of carbon dioxide from carbaminohemoglobin takes place. Understood? So what happens? So at the tissue level, the carbon dioxide concentration is more. So there what happens? The more binding of carbon dioxide to hemoglobin to form the carbaminohemoglobin, and it moves to the lungs, and near the lungs the oxygen concentration is more. So what happens? This carbaminohemoglobin, it releases that carbon dioxide into the lungs, and through the lungs, through the nostril, it will release out of the body. So second, that is the as carbaminohemoglobin. Third one, that is in the form of bicarbonates. So about 70%, majority of the carbon dioxide, 70% of CO2. RBCs and plasma, they contain an enzyme that is called as carbonic anhydrase, and this facilitate the following reaction. Clear? So RBCs and plasma, they contain an enzyme. That enzyme name is carbonic anhydrase. So that carbonic anhydrase, what it will do? The reaction between the carbon dioxide and CO2, and it will give the bicarbonates, that is H2CO3. Clear? It gives H2CO3, and that's H2CO3 again it is converted into the HCO3 plus H plus. So whatever the HCO3 is there, this is our carbonic bicarbonate. So here you can see the reaction, that is carbon dioxide, it acts with the water to form the H2CO3, and which enzyme is helping here? That is carbonic anhydrase. So H2CO3, this is not our bicarbonate. So bicarbonate is H3CO3 minus. So on this H2CO3, it is bicarbonic acid. So on this the carbonic anhydrase act and it converts it into the bicarbonate, that is H3CO3 minus, and H plus ion is released. So that reaction will take place. So when this reaches to the alveoli, the opposite reaction will take place to release the carbon dioxide and water again. So in the diagram you can see from the tissues it is converted into the bicarbonates. So like this, in 3 ways the carbon dioxide is transported. First, as that is as carbonic acid, second one carbaminohemoglobin, and third one as bicarbonates. In these three ways the carbon dioxide is transported. So every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood delivers about 4 ml of carbon dioxide to the alveoli. So this finishes the transport of gases, that is oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport. So important for 3 and 5 marks questions. This finishes the respiration. So we have studied breathing, that is inspiration and expiration, then gas exchange between the alveoli and the blood, and transport of the gases, that is carbon dioxide transport, oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport, that we have finished. Now we will move to the next point, that is regulation of the respiration. Regulation of respiration. So there are different respiratory centers in the brain, especially on the medulla oblongata. So in the brain, in the below region, you can see the long structure that is called as the medulla oblongata. So on that medulla oblongata, you can see that red color dot like structures, those are the respiratory centers. So there are 3 respiratory centers, means who are controlling this respiration activity, those are called as the respiratory centers. So you know that brain is controlling all the activity. So some particular points are there, those are controlling the respiratory activity. So first point is respiratory rhythmic center, which is responsible for the inspiratory and expiratory exchange. So when we take air inside, how to give outside. So that signal is given by this center, that is called as the respiratory rhythm center. Clear? Then next is the pneumatic center, and third one is the chemosensitive area. So all these 3 regions. So pneumatic area you can see at the top in the diagram, then rhythmicity area is there, then the chemosensitive area. So all these are located on the medulla oblongata. So what is their function, that we'll see now. So first one, that is the respiratory rhythm center. So in the below you can see inspiratory area and expiratory area, 2 centers are there. So they are located on the medulla oblongata. So what they do, they regulate the normal functioning of the inspiration and expiration, taking air inside and giving out. So this inspiratory and expiratory function is regulated by this respiratory rhythm center. So in the diagram, from the in the top, that dot is there, that is the pneumotaxic center, which is located on the pons area of the brain. So that is the pneumotaxic area. So what it does, it moderates the functions of the respiratory rhythm center, means whatever the first point we have studied, which is responsible for the inspiration and expiration. So who are moderating the function of those centers? So pneumotaxic center, it is on the top and it is maintaining the function of that first 2, inspiratory and expiratory rhythmic center. And last one is the chemosensitive area, which is adjacent to the rhythm center. So what it does, it increases the concentration of carbon dioxide, H plus ion, and activate these other centers, which in turn signals the rhythm center. Means all together they are sending the signal to each other and activating the rhythmic center, which are responsible for inspiratory and expiratory response. So receptors in the aortic arch and carotid artery also recognize the change in CO2 and H plus ion concentration and send the necessary signal to the rhythmic center. So all these are coordinately working to activate the rhythmic center, which are responsible for inspiration and expiration. So that is the main activity, to take air inside, oxygen, and to give carbon dioxide outside. So all these are the respiratory centers which are present on the medulla oblongata. They are regulating the respiratory activity. Now we will move to the last part of this chapter, that is disorders of respiratory system. So first disorder, that is the asthma, which is most common and you must have been seen. It is the difficulty in breathing causing wheezing. Wheezing means the sound, whistle like sound. Wheezing due to inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. Whatever the bronchi, that tube like structure which are going to the lungs, bronchi and bronchioles. So there the inflammation is there, and due to that difficulty will be there in the breathing with the sound production, that is called as the wheezing. So that is called as the asthma. So asthma patient, you must have seen, they are taking the pump. So that inflammation is reduced and the breathing is done smoothly. So this is the asthma. So next disorder is the emphysema. Emphysema, it is the alveolar walls are damaged. So alveolar, these are the main area where the exchange of gases takes place. So here in this disorder what happens, the alveolar walls only are damaged, due to which respiratory surface is decreased. So respiratory surface is decreased means dissociation of oxygen is less. So major cause is the cigarette smoking. So you can see due to the cigarette smoking, due to accumulation of the tobacco nicotine, the alveolar walls will get damaged and the surface area will decrease. So surface area will decrease means oxygen concentration is decrease. So it causes the emphysema. And the last disorder, that is the occupational respiratory disorder. Occupational means where you are working, the people they are working in the some industries. So there whatever the particles are there, they will enter into their body and they cause the respiratory disorders due to the exposure to the fumes or the dust. So first that is silicosis, due to the breathing of the silica. Silica is nothing but the valu. So those particles are produced. So these human beings are continuously in touch with that silica and all. So through their respiration, these silica is entering into their lungs and causes the silicosis. So in the lungs we will find the particles of the silica. So it damages the alveoli. Next one is the asbestosis. So due to the breathing of asbestosis particle. Asbestosis is also one type of mineral. So the chemical that also enters through the respiration into the lungs and it causes the asbestosis. If the silica is entered, silicosis is asbestosis particles are entering, then it is the asbestosis. So ultimately they are going to damage the lungs, and as the lungs are damaged, the respiration of the oxygen and transport of the carbon dioxide both are affected. So these are called as the occupational respiratory disorders. So here we come to the end of this topic. So we have finished the chapter number 17, that is breathing and exchange of gases. So thank you. We have finished chapter number 17. In next video we will start with the chapter number 18.